Hey folks, King here, and in this video I decided to do something a little different. Before I made my last video, which is called New Vinyl number 12, I had a week or so where I didn't have any new vinyl because I hadn't been paid yet, so I took that week to discover older records in my collection that I haven't listened to in a while, and I kind of got myself in a routine of just buying new vinyl, and once I heard it once or twice and consumed it, I moved on to the next batch of new vinyl records. And so there's a lot of records here that I wasn't listening to anymore, and I took a kind of like a timeout from buying new vinyl just to revisit some older records that I really like. So I just want to show some of them that I've been revisiting. So let's start with the first record of revisited records. It's Eric Johnson's Tones. For a lot of the fans, a lot of people think this is his first solo record. It's actually his second. But his first record came out, I think, almost 10 years before this one. And it features some of the same songs, just redone with a new producer. And what I love about Eric Johnson, and a lot of people love about Eric Johnson that listen to him, is the guy is a genius at creating just an amazing guitar tone. What this guy can do with guitar effects, and he just sort of fishes around and experiments to find just the perfect tone. And there's a lot of great guitar tones in this record, therefore it's probably why he called it Tones. um, like Soulful Terrain, there. I mean, he takes. This is back when he had this elaborate amplifier and foot pedal setup for his playing, his recording, and you really see it in songs like the first song, Soulful Terrain, Emerald Eyes, Trail of Tears, Bristol Shore, and the song that closes out this record, which is called Victory. Victory is a kind of a jazzy, like a jazz rock fusion, instrumental, with some amazing guitar work. A real mellow song, but some amazing guitar work. And at the end, it's just him playing his guitar unaccompanied by a band. Just him sitting with these beautiful, clear tones. And on vinyl, it really comes out really well. So if you're into guitar tones, that's definitely the record to get. Another record I've been revisiting, and this is a pretty common record, but not being that big of a Beatle fan, this was the one record I felt I had to have in my collection, no doubts about it, was Abbey Road from Beatles. Uh, a lot of my favorite songs from the Beatles are on here. So this makes this my all-time favorite Beatle album. I think they really got it right here on this album. Come Together, Something, Oh Darling, Here Comes the Sun, um, You Never Give Me Your Money, The Sun King, Because She Came into the Bathroom Window, Golden Slumbers Carry That Weight, in the End. I mean, this is just not one. I mean, there's a couple of songs I could do without, but I wouldn't say they're bad songs. I just don't listen as often as the ones I mentioned. But this is the Beatles at their best, in my opinion. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this album. They of course made other great songs too, but that will always be my favorite Beatles album. That's like the ultimate. I do enjoy collecting Led Zeppelin records with a passion. They make some great albums. They're fun to collect, and this one is my favorite. We'll start with the cover art alone, and then we'll get into other reasons why I like this album, which is Houses of the Holy. Christ's sake's gonna fit in this shot. I love that picture. That is a gorgeous album cover, and the inside is just as beautiful. Now I know we've all seen this on everyone's videos. Well, not every. I wouldn't say everyone, but this is a record that's been shown a lot, and that's just the album work. I mean, of course, we all know about Zeppelin. No artist name, no title of the record. It's just a picture, and a real breathtaking one too. Now we get into the music side of things. It has my favorite song from Led Zeppelin, which is the Rain Song. Just a gorgeous tune. I love. It's just a beautiful ballad. Really, this is a beautiful ballad. Not a love song, but a ballad. Jimmy Page's guitar work in that song, I think, is just stellar. Just stellar. um, the band really shines in that song, as they do in this entire record. I mean, not only that song, but the song remains the same. Over the Hills and Far Away, Dancing Days, and the just amazing song No Quarter. That song is amazing, and The Ocean is a perfect closer to this album because it's such a rockin' song and it ends real upbeat. My favorite Led Zeppelin album, hands down. It's I don't have to debate it. I don't have to sit there and think about it. Well, I like that song, this song, this song. This is my favorite. I mean, when I started collecting Led Zeppelin records, this was the first one I went after, and then the various albums afterwards. So, my all-time favorite. Now, when I started my vinyl collection, I wanted to get what I thought were the essential Who albums, which is Who's Next, Quadrophenia, and Tommy, and I got those. And I decided maybe it might be a good idea to discover some of Pete Townsend's solo albums. And I found this one in a dollar bin, and it quickly became my favorite album from Pete Townsend, which is called Empty Glass. Just a great record. Just an absolutely great record. The only song, at the time I bought this, the only song I knew from it is Let My Love Open the Door. And when I bought it, I discovered Rough Boys, I discovered And I Moved, and then I discovered A Little Is Enough, you know. And that's just mentioned a few. I mean, Pete Townsend's a great songwriter, and he really shows his songwriting talents and skills on this album, I think. And you know, some of the songs have my favorite drummer in it, which is Simon Phillips. Simon Phillips is just, I always say before, he's a powerhouse drummer, and he definitely shows it in this album as well. So, one of my favorite solo records from Pete Townsend, Empty Glass. Always fun to hear that record. I'm a lover of 70s R&B, and this band, I think, were some of the best musicians doing that kind of music in the 70s, and I'm talking about Earth, Wind & Fire. And this album is called Spirit. Not much going on in the back here. This is a tribute album, actually, to one of their co-producers and co-songwriters who passed away during the making of or recording of this album. His name was Charles Stepney, and he co-wrote some of the classic Earth, Wind & Fire songs, such as That's the Way of the World, and what's the other song I'm thinking of? Shining Star. So he passed away during this album. They have a song dedicated to his memory, which is the title track, Spirit. And it's a gorgeous song and brilliantly sung by Philip Bailey. And what I love about the song, and mainly what I love about the music of Earth, Wind & Fire, especially during the 70s, was it came from their songwriting and the emotions of their songs came from a pure place, a genuine place. It wasn't them. Of course, they wanted to be successful, they wanted to be famous, but you could tell they were doing what they really loved and singing what they really believed in. So a lot of their songs had a message. And it was a positive message of, you know, joy, hope, and faith. And you know, a lot of these records, when you put them on, you just instantly felt good. And I always thought those are the hardest songs to write. And people tend to find songs that are dark and depressing or deal with melancholy to be the most interesting. But I think it's really hard to write a song that make people feel good in the opening note. And Earth, Wind & Fire was really good at doing it. And so on this record, the songs like Imagination and Getaway really showed their ability to put a positive message in their music, and they were great musicians too. They not only did R&B, soul, and funk, but they did Brazilian music, jazz, gospel. I mean, they covered a lot of different areas. Okay, on this one, I'm a big fan of the band Heart. They make up a big percentage of my collection, and this particular album is one of my favorites. It's Dog and Butterfly, and I always hold it the wrong way. I can't fit this whole album cover into this shot. This is the top portion, and this is the bottom portion. So makes one big picture. So Dog and Butterfly is my favorite album from the band, and instead of saying side 1, side 2 on this record, side 1 is referred to as Dog, and it's all their fast songs. Side 2 is referred to as Butterfly, and it's more mellow, melodic type of songs, and it consists of Dog and Butterfly, Lighter Touch, Not a One, and Mistral Wind. And every time I visit this album, I always visit side 2, the Butterfly side, and it is such a great listen. All those songs in a row. I love side 2 of this album, particularly at night when I'm about to go to bed. It's a real peaceful piece of music to listen to. So I always dug this album. I think it's their best one. That and Dreamboat Annie. So. Especially the song Mistral Wind, which it does remind me of Stairway to Heaven. Starts off somewhat melodic and serene, and then it builds to some power, and it ends on a real soft, peaceful note. So it's a pretty epic tune. I mean, you just had to look it up and listen to it for yourselves. But and I always admire Nancy Wilson's talent on acoustic guitar. She is my favorite acoustic guitar player. She can play a mean electric as well, but I really love how she plays her acoustic guitar. She is my favorite. So love that record. This next record falls into that category. If you're stranded on a deserted island, you can only take a few records with you. Which one would you take for you won't go crazy? I would probably take this album right here. Stevie Wonder's Innervisions. I mainly went after this album because I like the songs Living for the City and Higher Ground. Those are my favorite Stevie Wonder songs, and you really couldn't go wrong with any Stevie Wonder album during the 70s. The man was just writing some incredible music during that time. I think it was like Viz songs, The Key of Life, Talking Book. The man was on fire during the 70s, and this album, not, in my opinion, not a bad song on it. We're talking Too High, Visions, Living for the City, Golden Lady, Higher Ground, Jesus Children of America. I love listening to that song. I never get tired of it. All in Love is Fair, Don't You Worry About a Thing, and the perfect closer to the song is He's Mr. Know-It-All. This is a great album. I love listening to it. I always listen to it in its entirety. I don't just pick my favorite songs and then put it away. If I listen to this, I'm listening to the whole thing. And I'm making sure that I don't get distracted with being online or anything like that. I throw myself into this album. It is just a pleasure to listen to, and one of the favorite albums I keep coming to over and over in my collection. Okay, and this next one is a artist who gets bashed by a lot of people, even a few people here in the OVC. But when I listen to his first solo record, I can't get over how much I love it. It's Phil Collins' Face Value. Now we've all had In the Air Tonight rammed down our throats. So I know must have all heard that song hundreds of times, and it gets a little tiring after a while. I get that, but there is some really cool variety on this record, such as This Must Be Love, which is a real romantic love ballad with a great bass line on it, played by Alphonso Johnson. A remake of a Genesis song, Behind the Lines, with more of a funky feel to it. Roof is Leaking, which is really just features some piano and slide guitar. And basically it's a song about frontiersmen, people living in the 1800s, very poor. And there's two instrumentals that end the side one, which is called Droned, and which segues into Hand in Hand. Kind of like a fusion rock type of style. Both these instrumentals are. I mean, you could very well could have been put on a Genesis record in the early 70s. It has that sound to it. And then we get to side two. It's an R&B influenced song called I Missed Again. and of course the whole record ends with a beautiful remake of the Beatles song "Tomorrow Never Knows." And this is a lot of variety just on this one record. I think if Phil Collins himself went to a record label and say, "Here's my music, can you please sign me?" they would turn him down. It's a shame that records with a lot of different variety of songs on it just gets ignored. And this record really had a lot going for it besides just the one hit. I always thought it was a well-made record. I'm a big fan of Rush, and I love side 2 of this album. It's just absolutely killer. Permanent Waves by Rush. You know, side 1 has all the classic rock radio tunes like Spirit of Radio and Free Will. You can hear that anytime on classic rock radio, it seems. But side 2, Entre Nous and Different Strings, and one of my favorite Rush songs, which is called Natural Science. It's just an amazing song. You know, since I've owned this album, I don't think I've listened to side 1 because, you know, I'm a Rush fan. I've heard Spirit Radio and Free Will a million times. I would listen for Jacob's Ladder because that's a great song as well. But side 2 of this album really makes a big impact on me. I can't get enough, especially Natural Science. Just a great song with a lot of odd time signatures. But Rush had a way of making odd time signatures feel very comfortable. Genesis does the same thing. You know, you listen to a song in 7/8 or 11 time, and you kind of don't realize it because they go into those complicated sections of their music really casually, and so you don't. It doesn't really register that you're listening to music played in a complicated or odd time signature, and that's, I think, the genius of their songwriting. I pulled out another Rush record because it is one I do listen to a lot. And a lot of people were hating on Rush during the mid to late 80s because keyboards and synthesizers started taking over their sound. And a lot of the classic Rush fans that are into moving pictures in 2112, that kind of music, didn't really appreciate that era of Rush, and a lot of people kind of checked out on them, which I thought was too bad because to me that was a real exciting era of their songwriting. And the album that featured that really well was this one, Power Windows. The big song on here was the song Big Money, but the one that really gets to me the most is a song called Middletown Dreams, because I think it was like the perfect song during that keyboard era. Their use of keyboards pretty much would play as what a second guitar player would play, but because there's only 3 of them, they would program these MIDI controlled keyboards to do all these different little patterns for them, and they came up with some very interesting ideas for keyboard, which I found to be real exciting in their music. And so I always view this album as, you know, one of my favorites during their synthesizer era, as well as the song Mystic Rhythms. That was another great song. Unfortunately, it seemed like during that time the guitar was kind of taking a back seat to the keyboards. So you got one of the best power trios in the world just surrounded by banks and banks of keyboards. But, you know, I always thought it was a great songwriting for the times. Marathon and the song Manhattan Project, another song real keyboard heavy but really exciting stuff, and they were really onto something new. And that's one thing about Rush, you know, they don't get too comfortable with a certain sound. They always try to push themselves and challenge themselves to reinvent their sound, and I found that era just as exciting as the 2112 and Moving Pictures. Alright, this last album. This is my favorite album from this artist. I know I've shown this record before, but I rediscovered it and can't stop listening to it. Peter Gabriel's third solo album. And a lot of his fans refer to this album as Melt, and there is so many amazing songs on this record. Mainly I like Intruder because of the drum sound. I have to admit, I am a drummer, so I pick up on these things. But No Self Control was another one I really, really liked. Phil Collins drums on both those two songs I mentioned, and he sounds like a god on those songs. A nice big drum sound, it's amazing. I Don't Remember is a good single. The Family Snapshot is a great song. Loved it to death. Games Without Frontiers, a song when I first heard it many, many years back, I kind of thought it was just too weird for me. I never really gave it much attention. And then I bought a Peter Gabriel live DVD, and they did a live version of that song, and it sounded amazing. And when I bought this vinyl record, when I got to that song, it just sounded amazing. And of course, the song Biko, which ends a lot of his concerts. It's an amazing song. There's some great songs on this album. I think a lot of people probably think So was probably his best one. I think it's this one. So does come in a close second. Well, that's going to do it here. I just thought I would share with you some records that I got back into that I was ignoring for a long period of time. It'll probably be about a week or a week and a half until I do another vinyl video. So until then, I hope everybody's doing well, and I'll see you at the next video.